Hello, TV audience. Hello, audience on Periscope. Good evening and welcome inside the broadcast studio at UVC TV 19 in the Student Union. I'm your host, Xander Manning, and this is UMass Sports Weekly. It's our last show before we take a week off for Thanksgiving break. I know, so sad. But anyways, let's jump right into it. First things first this week, we'll be talking with J-Mac about the men's soccer team. Is their remarkable run still, running? Then we'll be talking with football expert Jay Ho, who made the trip to Fenway Park for UMass's matchup with the University of Maine in the Fenway Gridiron series. Was he right about his prediction? Did the Minutemen shoot down the Black Bears? And then that'll be it for the show tonight. And unfortunately, Ryan Beaton won't be with us, even though he was there for some UMass women's basketball, who won 111-45 this weekend. Unheard of for the women's basketball team, but great game nonetheless. Got a great show on tap for you tonight. We hope you'll stick around for it. All this more is coming right up. Don't change the channel. This is UMass Sports Weekly. And we're back. Over the weekend, the Minutemen won the Atlantic 10 championship. That's right, they won. But they snuck by VCU by a score of 3-1 Sunday. Close game, giving them the title, winning both the regular season title and the tournament title. With that, we bring in our men's soccer expert, Justin McCagnon. J-Mac, how you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. Couldn't be happier, Xander. This week was amazing. I got to live stream the Minutemen cream Virginia Commonwealth University on Sunday, and my blood pressure couldn't be higher.
You can say they rammed them.
Give or take, yes.
Yeah.
They looked fantastic all around. I can't wait to see them in the NCAA tournament this week.
So, of course, that begins on Wednesday. Really something to think about, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, UMass, they proved to everyone this year that in the world, they are not just a great school with no sport talent. They showed that they are just as good, if not better, than the other competitors out there. And with this statement win over the number 19 ranked VCU, they showed that in the future they are not to be taken lightly. Just what a spectacular end to a spectacular season.
I mean, regular season, but it continues now. But, of course, we got to ask this question. Do they need to change anything?
Frankly, no. This team has a young roster, and that young roster just won UMass their third A10 tournament title in school history. So, personally, this team has everything to be excited for. They have the talent on their bench and should be in great position for next year's schedule. With very few seniors leaving and the freshman and sophomore classes being the biggest in many years, I'd say that they all have to do is prepare these future stars for the next years so that they can have sustained success and build a powerhouse program.
So, it's the first time they're in the NCAA tournament in about 9 years, since 2008. Mm-hmm. 2007, the year before, they made it to the College Cup. But this is a different season. It's 2017. Where would you give the credit here for this team? Would you go to Coach O'Leary? Would you go with the team as a whole? Where are you looking at with the credit?
Personally, this team was great overall in terms of chemistry. However, I can say that some serious credit is due to Coach O'Leary. Mr. O'Leary, who came off of a 5-13 year last year, rebutted with one of the best soccer seasons in UMass history. He has proven to the university that he is the right man for the job and that going forward, UMass has a lot to look forward to in the coming years with this team.
Definitely exciting, but excited about what happened in the past, but how are you feeling about November 16th? You excited?
Absolutely. Regardless of the result, this has become one of the most historical seasons for UMass's men's soccer, and as a freshman at this school, it's a very entertaining year to watch a soccer program.
Especially if we talked to Conrad the other week, he seemed like he was brimming with optimism.
Absolutely.
Well, that'll do it for our discussion of men's soccer tonight. Thanks for taking the time today, J-Mac. Up next, we'll be discussing some UMass football with Jay Ho right after this. And we're back. Over the weekend, Jay Ho was probably the luckiest guy on this show who walked around the field at Fenway Park while taking occasional video of UMass football. We're kidding, of course. Jay Ho made the journey to Fenway Park and captured a victory 44-31 for UMass over FCS opponent Maine. Now, John, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
So I got to ask you, I meant to ask you before the show, but what was it like walking around the grass at Fenway Park?
Well, Xander, it was like walking down the yellow brick road of the Wizard of Oz, or like walking into Disneyland or Disney World.
I'm a little jealous, but
Yeah.
we'll get to the game.
Yeah. Well, game's most important, so let me
Of course.
put this down for a bit.
We got to be more professional here.
Yes.
What are some positives to take away from this game?
So there are plenty of positives to take away from this game as they won. But first, let me say that this win was Coach Mark Whipple's 60th, which makes him the program leader and the most by a head coach in UMass football history.
Wow.
So I just wanted to mention that. And so the first thing I want to mention is the offense played very well. So Andrew Ford, who returned from his injury that he suffered 2 weeks ago, had a solid game. He went for 21 for 39, and he threw 355 yards, and he had 4 touchdowns. And he had a QBR of 551.3, which is not great, but it got the job done. And wide receiver Andy Isabella had an amazing game and was a difference maker in this game. So he had 8 receptions, he had for 152 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns.
Ooh.
Yes.
Wow.
And also, Marquise Young had a solid game too. He ran for 123 yards, and he ran for 6.5 yards per attempt. And he also had a touchdown that basically sealed the game. And he had 208 all-purpose yards with a 61-yard kick return yards and 24-yard reception. And also, the defense made big plays when they needed to. And they had 2 interceptions and won the turnover battle 2-0, and which included a pick 6 by Lee Moses. And Maine's quarterback, Chris Ferguson, went 16 for 41, which is 39%. A 39% completion percentage.
That's not good.
Yeah,
folks.
that's not very good.
Not good.
And he threw for 232 yards, and he had 2 interceptions. And Maine also went 1 for 14 on 3rd down.
Also not good.
Yeah, so the defense did their job, and they made plays when they needed to. And also on first down, UMass had 23, Maine had 17. And as far as total yards, UMass had 255, and Maine had 380.
Sounds like an overall great game for the Minutemen, wouldn't you say?
They did enough to get the job done.
Well, are there any negatives from this game?
Even though UMass, I would say, convincingly won this game, and I never felt like Maine had much of a chance, except maybe after they scored the touchdown and tied the game after the 3rd quarter. There's still a lot of issues that are a bit discouraging for the Minutemen.
Listening.
Yes. So one of the things I've been mentioning for the past few weeks is how the special teams, as far as covering on punt returns, has been not very special the past few weeks, and unfortunately it kind of bit them this week. And I would say the first 2 touchdowns by Maine are a result of bad special teams and bad punt coverage. So the first 2, so Maine's first touchdown was a punt return for a touchdown, and the second was a touchdown. The second was a 43-yard return to the Maine 43-yard line. So I believe that only 17 of UMass's points were really the defense's fault. I put like 14 of those on the special teams. So it would have been better if Maine only scored 17 points. And also, I think they could have done a better job of stopping the run. Running back Josh Mack ran for 111 yards with 22 carries, and he had 2 touchdowns. And Maine, as a team, averaged 5.1 yards per rush, while UMass only averaged 2.8. And also, I felt a lack of pressure from the defensive line, which has kind of been a problem the past few weeks, as they only got 1 sack. And also, even though the offense played well in the game, there are some glaring problems, mainly pass protection, as Andrew Ford was sacked 5 times in the game, so we don't want to put him back in the hospital again.
No.
And also, they were 3-14 on 3rd down.
Nobody's good on 3rd down in this game. Jeez.
Yeah, so.
Nobody.
Yeah, nobody. And there were a lot of penalties for both teams. UMass had 13 penalties, which cost them 96 yards. Maine, however, had 12 penalties, which cost them 124 yards. So it kind of evened out, but that's something that Coach Whipple will probably have to talk about with the team because penalties are a result of like losing focus and creaks in discipline.
Well, at least they evened out.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask from a team.
Yes.
So their next opponent, Brigham Young University, they're going on the road out to Provo, Utah. What can we expect from this game?
So our next opponent is BYU. I don't think they're a good team. They are 3-8, and even though they have a similar record to UMass, UMass is 3-7 and they're 3-8. I would say BYU's been less competitive than UMass has been. They both have played Mississippi State. When they played Mississippi State, they lost 35-10. And just to mention, Mississippi State is ranked 17th in the country, and they competed this week very competitively against Alabama. If it weren't for a game-winning drive, who knows what would have happened. And UMass lost to them 23-34. So that shows you, that's a good idea of like the levels of these two teams, I think. And so BYU averages 16.5 points per game, and they allow an average of 25.9 points. And UMass averages 30.6 points, and they allow an average of 30.9 points. So, and recently they won against UNLV, which is not that impressive since they're 4-6.
Not exactly the most impressive game to beat.
No.
Especially where BYU has been in the last few years. But all right, what's your prediction for next week? Is it a win? Is it a loss? What do we have coming?
So UMass has won 3 of their last 4 games. And although they are 0-4 on the road, BYU is 2-3 at home. So it's not like they're dominant at home. So I think the road woes will change for UMass this week. So I predict UMass is going to win. And I predict it will be 30-24.
30-24. You heard it here first, folks. That'll do it for our football discussion. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, John. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Well, and that'll do it for the show tonight. Quick show tonight. That'll do it for all of us here at UMass Sports Weekly. Thanks for joining us this week, both on the UMass Cable Network and on Periscope. We'll be back after a week-long hiatus, but try not to miss us too much. In the meantime, we may be on Snapchat, Periscope, Facebook, and Twitter, so don't forget to follow us on there if you haven't already. Big thank you to Amanda, our producer in the next room, and Daryl, our faculty supervisor, keeping the show afloat after all this time. It's that time again. Call up Greenfields, because that's a wrap. Have a great week, UMass, and happy Turkey Day.